Celestial event. No. What? I should have said. Oh. So people need to see what I see. They need to see.
These are the spiritual as much as physical voyages of the Co-Federation, Solar, Sun-R-Starship, Planet Earth,
Co-Secretary Generals, Birthday Gods,
and our spiritual, genealogical, local, global, universal, Voyager, and shared her and his family community enterprise. Our new millennial year's mission to rediscover and re-understand, sustain, and explore are and all are in fact familiar new worlds of family community, of the tree of love, life, and light throughout the solar system and universe, to restore, renew, and sustain our and new life and new sustainable civilizations, past, present, retroactively, and now, rebalance, and future, always balancing, to lovingly, genealogically, and boldly become and be space-time travelers whenever and wherever been before, if also never been before, in alternative space timelines that are circles, which are of the universal EQ, IQ, and SQ continuum. Balance, combinations of the ever-expanding circle which spirals and grows, budding and blooming in space-time. Love and live enlightened, ever young, loyal, and prosper all both in each and every one. Engage your heart, mind, soul, and body, for we all, both and each, both and all, can, must, and marvelously and miraculously make it so.
In the thunderous blast, she emerges, her eyes on fire, a mighty priestess. She's risen from the nativity of Caldera. She is risen from the fires of the earth. She's risen, she's risen.
We are risen.
She's risen. She's risen.
We are risen.
May the circle be over, may the love of God is the air in your heart. Very peace and very Lord, and very meet again. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be.
महालक्ष्मी मृडप्रिया महारूपा महापूज्या महापातकनाशिनी महामाया महासत्त्व महाशक्ति महारथी महाभूता महेश्वर्या महावीर्या महाबला महाबुद्धि महासिद्धि महायोगीश्वरेश्वरी महातंत्र महामंत्र महायंत्र महासना महायागक्रमाराध्या ओम महाभैरवपूजिता महेश्वर महाकल्पक महातांडव साक्षिणी महाकामेशमहिषी महात्रिपुरसुन्दरी चतुष्षष्टि उपचाराढ्या चतुष्षष्टि कलामयी महाचतुष्षष्टिकोटियोगिनी गणसेविता
coming back. No. Words. Words. I should have said, oh, so beautiful.
Our family is filled with poetesses, poets, healers, artists, co-secretary generals, co-secretaries, equinox, true Jews, as they heed what I have seen. This is our launching pad to open the stargates and bring all eternal youth. And this too, and your home and neighborhood too. This day I call the heavens and the earths as witnesses intercessorily for and hopefully and prayerfully not against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose love and life with light, so that you and your children may live. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not our new millennial law.
Okay. Brother Patricia.
Maybe play Sunflower or Cherokee and Blackfoot. This is Anna Marie singing Christmas, and I am Cherokee, Cheyenne, Blackfoot, and Algonquin, Dakota, and I am also a French, English, and German. Mitukuye Ayasi, that means we are all related. We embrace the new millennium goals through as the law of all the natives of the sacred ground that is Mother Earth and all the planets of all the universes.
Welcome to our broadcast. You'll be looking at me, and I have some furry friend family here to join us in a little bit. We are gathering our attendees, and we know some of you will be watching by video later after the broadcast. We know we're being seen around the world, and so I'm going to see if we can get our connections a little bit prepared, and then we're going to do a broadcast in about 5 minutes. Until then, go to our website 5050now.wordpress.com. Read the opening essay, "The Days the Earth Stood Still," about the gifts that I am bringing to you as cosmic Christ, and that you can bring to one another as cosmic co-Christs. And also we will be back in about a few minutes, and we will do an actual fuller broadcast with you. Okay, and we're going to happily say we're joined by some furry friends family. Roaming amongst the computers. These are computer kitty cats. There they are. And the sun is beaming on them from the window. Okay, and they're here and they're joining us and they're representing their branch of the tree of love and life and light in our marvelous, miraculous, on our marvelous, miraculous local, global, and universal planet. And we are going to do our ceremony. And first, we're going to play that important tape. We hope that those who do not have computer access but do know about these broadcasts are listening. We believe they may well be calling in. We hope so. We have no way of knowing for sure who is calling in and who isn't. The phone tree software doesn't tell that information easily. So unless they actually leave a message, and we think a lot of the people are not quite ready to do that. So, but we think a lot of people who are learning about this, who are within our own dearest and nearest and most closely known family and community are calling in. And we definitely want them to hear this. And they, in any case, they already know it's occurring. They've heard the tape. They know that we're standing up for all of humanity and giving all human beings the right of gender parity as a delivered human right and a divine, inalienable right. And it is as important for, it cannot be more important for females, but it is also, in fact, equally important for males. And so we are giving this today, and we'll once again put that screen share on while we play this tape. Of sisters who are mothers, who were daughters, talking about sisters who were mothers, who were daughters, and who are all, of course, sister cousines to every other woman, and not only in their family tree, known family tree, but the whole entire family tree of humanity, past, present, and future, because we are all related. Archaeologists and anthropologists have made it quite clear that everybody is at most 50th cousina and 50th cousin from everybody else on this planet. And if you have a shared heritage, you're likely much closer, like maybe between 5th and 15th cousinas and cousins. And so you, even those who are your closest cousins and cousins and sisters and brothers and family, parents, and mothers and fathers, and we'll get to the fathers later, but we want to focus on the mothers and the great and grandmothers and their sister cousines for these reparative broadcasts, are all delivered by me and the power of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God. And I don't care what you're watching on television. I don't care how widespread the lie is, that tokenism is okay, that gradualism is okay, and that you didn't need parity thousands of years ago. You needed it thousands of years ago. You were actually redelivered a couple of 100 years ago in common sense, but you missed that one. And you're missing this again because you're busy watching television and paying attention to people who are misleading you instead of leading you to your true divinity nature. So wake up and hear this in that understanding and spirit.
And then she said she couldn't use the name for everybody. Did you catch that? That's when she came back and started to spell the pens with the golden center. Her whole love was to have her children here. She did. Was struggling so heavy just to get along, have enough to eat. She was careful, very careful. And there was a sister, Clara.
And of course, you can hear
Donnie Aurora Feliz and Mario Rainbow Sweetheart right nearby. And I'm going to show you them again. We know we have an audience nearby. There's Donnie. And here's Mario Rainbow Sweetheart. Oops. Let's see. Not getting that camera on her. There she is. There she is. And they say hi and hugs to Heather and Jam and Heather. And on behalf of Whiskers and Tiger and Holly and Tiger. And also we'll get to the later in the broadcast. Buttermilk and Blackie, Buttermilk and Felix. And when you say Blackie and Buttermilk and Blackie a little louder, and then Felix. And we'll explain to you our prioritizations based on gender, based on age, and we also have a lot of minority people that we want to focus on because patriarchy is very terrible to people who are of minority status. Wherever in the world they are in minority status. It tends to be patriarchy is essentially a system that induces identification with the aggressor, or with whoever is dominant. And therefore, it creates an environment in which people who are slightly less populated in a region can become very, very subjugated and harmed. And yet that, you would think, is in a weird thinking that patriarchy induces, is a good thing for the dominants, but it isn't. It's actually a terrible thing for the dominators, and over time they simply ensure their own destruction by doing that. And so domination always leads to destruction. There's no way out of that. It is a proven fact throughout the story of humankind. So why are people continuing with patriarchal domination? Simple. Habit, and socialization, and institutions that have embedded patriarchy in them, and people are not recognizing what they are doing. So we're going to do our gathering of our women. Now, we had our little furry friends here and their family introduced, but the more important members of our gathering are, of course, women and our youth, females and males, age 37 and younger. We want all our Shekinahs and our younger Hekinahs, age 37 and younger, to know that this broadcast is especially to co-empower them. That doesn't mean we're leaving older men out of our hearts. Not at all. They have a very profound role to play. They have to acknowledge and account themselves. And that's a very important thing for people to do. So we're not neglecting them. We're trying to empower them in divinity instead of bestiality. Would you say that's a favor to them? I would. So now let's say some of our women. We know I always start with the family of Mary and Hadass and their great-grandmothers, who we are including also Naomi and Ruth. They have other Shekinah, and there's other young Hekinah on their family who we will come back to. And there's a reason for that. In the Bible that most people are most familiar with, the Judeo-Christian Bible, the book of Esther is one of the very few books about women, and so is the book of Naomi and Ruth. There's almost no books about women. And it took Elizabeth Cady Stanton and her committee to kind of do a revision of the Bible to include all the many names of women who are left out. And there's a lot more names of women who have been left out in the told story of history that is the wrong story that's been told by most media and sadly, many of our educational schools and establishments for way too long. It is always hers and histories. It can't be any other way because the universe created us both female and male. It has to include the female, and so the invisibilization of what women do, think, want, and represent in the universe is a tremendous lie. And we've all been living under that lie for thousands of years, and there's a whole bunch of people that are so embedded in that lie that they actually are so poisoned by it that they want to poison everybody else with it. they're poisoned by that lie. They're not people who started out preferring the male gender over the female gender. They learned that. They learned the lie, and now they want to continue passing around that lie. Well, this time in our humanity, if we did that, we'd all wind up in pretty much a horrific situation and then all dead. So, is this what we want, or do we want some truth and some light and some loving life for everyone? And so we start out with Hadassah and Marian Hadassah, because in the biblical book of Esther, they don't connect her to her previous ancestry, which include Naomi and Ruth. They don't even name her mother. How's that? Queen Esther's been celebrated for thousands of years by both Jews and Christians, and likely even Muslims too. And nobody even asked, what was her mother's name? That's called invisibilization. And Queen Esther had children, and one of them was a daughter who I am a partial reincarnation of, Radasha. And she is saying to the world, isn't it time that we made good on the 50-50 promise to Esther? And all of Esther's kin, all of her Shekinahs, all of the slaves. How about freeing all the slaves and give 50-50 to every human being? That's the way we want life to be. Everything should be 50-50 throughout life. Everything should be reciprocal and fair. And it doesn't have to be perfectly always to the letter 50-50, but over the broad brush. Every person deserves their due from every other person. Every relationship has to have give and take, and every group of people have to allow all of the people to at least have their say, so that overall everybody has an equal chance to contribute and to bring their gifts into the circle. So we're starting with them, and now we're going to especially also start with our great-grandmothers, who are the proprietesses and the lead goddesses and goddesses with their daughters and great-granddaughters and sisters and Shekinah and Kazinas of this place that we already showed you. That is Rhea, our goddess Ray, Astrea. I call myself Astrea, and I am her descendant, but she was called Ray. And Ray, or Rhea, was the goddess name of the Balkans and of the ancient Greeks. Ray was considered the mother of all of the goddesses and gods of Mount Olympus. Ray was their mother. And in the Greco-Roman tradition, she goes back further to Atlantis as Estrea, or Estra, who I am giving myself as that full name, included in my name. And in the Atlantis civilization. And so her daughter was Harriet, or we are calling her as Hera, to connect her both to the Judeo-Christian goddess aspect, seen as the emblematic presence of the tree of love and life, who stood in the temple in Jerusalem for thousands of years before a couple of old men got it in their head that that was wrong. And they removed her. And they removed her while they were also busy removing life from many other people all around the area in constant fratricidal warfare. But they said they were great and their God was better. Their God without a wife was better. Think that was smart? People have thought so for thousands of years. And then later on in that same region, some people who had been influenced likely by Atlantis, the Essenes, began to challenge this. And they began to say, what about an egalitarian approach to goddess God, and to especially to who to value in the world, and not having all this hierarchy among people. Let's say that, and they did say, female and male are equally anointed, and master and slave are equally anointed. In other words, get rid of the master-slave nonsense. And all the they called it Greek and Jew, but they meant all nationalities are equally anointed. Get rid of the nationalism nonsense. And they said that several thousands of years ago. But in the manner of hypocrisy that is so much a part of patriarchy, all the people who celebrate these people managed to ignore exactly what they said and do exactly the opposite, and put men over women, put one nation over another nation, and put masters that enslave and exploit billions of people, stressing them, giving them diseases that they wouldn't normally have, and causing them to fight amongst themselves with crime and war. And that's what patriarchy does. So that's why we have delivered you parity. So now we've named some of the proprietors as Reyes and Hera. Now they had another sister, a daughter, and sisters and daughters. Ray had a sister named Clara. They were separated by immigration, and they were separated by their mother, who was Ms. Margulies. I'm not even sure her name, and we really should have given her a name by now. So let's give her the name. I'm not even sure. So isn't that something? Let's call her Mariam. She should have been called Mariam Margulies, of course. Mariam also was a mother of Ray, and then the grandmother was Grandma Popper. We don't know her first name. But all of the Margulian women of that generation, and all of the Popper women, and all of their generations all the way back to the very beginning of time, earlier than Queen Esther, earlier than Michal and David, earlier than Sarah, Hagar, Keturah, and the guy that screwed them over, and that everybody worshipped as such a great founder, but in fact was caught himself in patriarchy and could not deliver to his children the goodies that he really wanted to give. Isn't that sad? He wanted to give his daughters and his sons an excellent life, but he grew up at a time when women were considered chattel and slaves, and their primary purpose was simply and only to bear children and care for them. And other than that, they were only occasionally listened to kind of behind the scenes. They had to be behind the scenes. And as a result, they endangered their own children. They almost killed their sons, too. And they killed often their own sons. They often had father-son fratricide and intergenerational killing. Even with the famous ones, Solomon, King David, all of that, they all suffered in a terrible way. Do you think they liked losing their own family? But they were adjusted to it because they had adjusted to patriarchy, and they forgot Atlantis. Many people believe that the eruption of Atlantis was the cause of the parting of the Red Sea. The eruption of Thera was the causing of the parting of the Red Sea, and the wandering in the desert is a metaphor for society wandering in the desert that is patriarchy, and not yet, and we hope now that I have delivered it, finally reaching the promised land and lands and planets of parity. So we are, of course, naming all those branches of women. Now this home also had another branch coming into it. There was a man who lived in this home, and the children of this home were part Margulian and part Silver Kindian, who we are now raising to Silver Golden Kindian. And his name, I'll mention it later with a group of men, but it's very important. He was a younger brother, a gentler man in a patriarchal society that passed during Depression. He's very much spirit, and he's here with us at these broadcasts. All of the men of our family are too. They're listening to me too. And he, of course, the children are also as Hera Harriet, and well, Ray took that as a married name, Silverkind, and before she was widowed, and even after she was widowed, she kept on to it, which was the practice of her day. They didn't allow people, as they do routinely in Hispanic and Dutch and other cultures, to carry the name of both mothers and fathers. It was always patronymic names. That's one of the flaws of the society in which we live in here in North America. In any case, the Silver Kindian family brings us many other gifted women too, and we're going to get to them in a minute. But let's go back to the Margulian branches. We do have Ivana, we have Ivy, we have Candace, we have a couple of Anns. We obviously have Julia Marie and I, and our generations that are coming into this, both female and male, and we'll get to that. And we have Seal, we have Elisheva and her mother. We have very famous, of course,
the famous ones who are gathering. Our lack of gathering as non-famous people has impeded our bringing to attention into our midst so they can assist us. People who have some additional resources right now: Rachel, Alexandra, Juliana, and Francesca, their mother, very famous actress family, and involved in foreign relations, involved in quite a bit of governmental and human rights activity. Yet, because some of the other women in this family don't think it's important to gather, we haven't been able to gather their involvement yet completely, but we are in touch with them, and they know that they're being mentioned in these broadcasts. And so that kind of family is kind of connected. We'll come back to the Silver Kindi, and we want to mention not only all the relations of the father of this family who were female. We want to certainly include his mother, Antoinette, and all of her branches, and her daughters included Lucille, and do include Lucille, and Rosa, and Adele. And we are including all of their great and grandchildren. All the branches here, we're including Batya and Helene and Sherry, along with, of course, their mothers, Lee and Thelma and Arlene. And we're including Rita, who is a daughter by a son of this family, but also has her, Rita and Marilyn, who came to this place, actually did come here. And during their lives with their mother and grandmother, Molly and Lillian, and also their daughters and great-granddaughters. We're including, in other Shekinah, we're including Jessica and Jennifer, and Linda and Michelle, and we're including Ellen, and we're including Heidi. And we're including all of the women on those branches, Silver Kenyan branches. And then very famous, the woman whose family was my rabbi here in Silver Become Golden Spring. The family now is very deeply involved in solar energy. And also she is clearly the actual, in fact, president, better than president. She's the best co-secretary general from our branches of family in the land of the Middle East that we call Israel. Susan, who made it possible for women, she and her daughter Halal and Aliza are here too, and Halal and Susan with other women made it possible for women to pray at the Temple Mount, where we now know there was so many Asherah statues and worship tabernacles. And they're here too. And other Margulies and women from that region too, coming back to the Margulies, we are including Nama and her mother Hadassah, Nama was chased by Orthodox old men spitting upon her because she was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. So they spit on this little 8-year-old girl because they, in their all black dress with their big hats, clearly know much more about what Goddess God wants to see people wear in their minds, in their patriarchal minds. And so they spit on a little 8-year-old girl, traumatizing her, rushing her around through streets that she had to run through in order to get to her school without being brought down by these old men. Her mother also suffered injury as a result of this as she stood up and discussed it at the mikvah. She was also not well received by the women, because when you hold on to these fundamentalist beliefs, you set yourself up for these kinds of troubles. And it is the nature of patriarchy that both females and males don't recognize what they're doing because they're not naming the game. It's patriarchy instead of parity. And it's the delusion that that's what the universe wants. There's no evidence that that's what the universe wants. In fact, there's every bit of evidence that it's not what the universe wants. But people practice it anyway. And so we're including those family members here. We're including Elisheva and her organic farming family. And we're including, let's see, there's many more Margulises, and some of them are very, very famous and have done great things. We are including Anne, the developer of the open course MIT courseware that anyone now all over the world can get a university education from MIT for no money whatsoever.
by going to their website that she gave you. And you don't think you want to gather here with her? Is that interesting? You don't think you want to gather here yet? Oh. And we're also including Vanessa's family. We're including Victoria and Mariama and Estrella and Libertia of the older generations and great-grandmother's generations and in current generations along with Vanessa. We are including Sharon and Raquel and Lynn. And we are, and she's obviously contemporary with Hadass, and we are including, and that's on, we don't know. I have a feeling that that branch also intertwines with all of these branches and certainly likely with both the Margilian and the Feldmarian branch. I believe it's already intertwined, and the Zalkindian and the and the Silverkindian and the Zalkindian branches may also be intertwined. We know that all of the people of this heritage all come from at least it's simply 2 women who lived around the year of what we call 0 on our current most popular calendar in the Western world. So we know these are already Kazinas and cousins, Kazinas and Shekinah. And so, so we've included those groups. We're including neighbors, very important. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love and respect thy female neighbor as much as thy male neighbor, and don't alienate them and don't ignore them. They are your holy given family right near you. Appreciate them. And we have Georgine and Shirley and Malka, whose name means queen in Hebrew. And Georgine has a very marvelous name. And the line here is Goldenberg, and Goldenberg, we believe, is likely a family involved in the development of the Stargate theory related to the Rosen family as well as the Marek-Einstein family. Marek-Einstein. Marians, are you listening? Marek-Einstein. The reason the Stargates haven't been opened yet is we didn't include the Divine Feminine yet in our understanding of the reliance upon physical science on social science. In other words, the yang needs the yin to be functioning, or it can't get the doors opened. The doors don't open without it. So the discoveries don't happen. Oh, you get lousy discoveries. You learn how to make bombs. You learn how to make nuclear bombs. You learn how to kill people effectively, but you don't get the great discoveries of love of the universe, do you? Okay. So, so we mentioned those families, and we mentioned other neighbors of mine here, Margaret and Temmie and Lori and Kelly, and we're mentioning another Margaret and Maya and Judy and Laura and Amber and Louise and Elizabeth and Eileen and Rowena, and near where you are at, you also have Theodora, an Atlantis name if I ever heard one, and Martha, another biblical name with the Mar in it, and the Tha of Thea, thou, the, okay, and to love thy neighbors as thyself and empower into parity instead of patriarchy. And we have Janet and Katie, and we want to tell them to get their old guy out of the way because he's in the way and he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. So we also want to mention another branches of our family. Let me say we have the most troubled branches for our family who are putting great pressure on little Ya and also affecting my nieces and nephews directly, and have been affecting all the branches closest to me. Let us do name Shulgreis, and that includes Heidi and Barbara, and the forgotten and estranged Linda, and the forgotten and estranged Deanna and Diana, as well as also we are including the Russian branches that come through that line that is so overly patriarchal and doing its Kurgan invasion to the detriment of a whole region now. But we are including Antonina and Polina and Bessie, and we are including Valentina and Elsa and Tatiana. All the Russian women in the United States, the families of Russian Jewry, are still suffering the same problem. The Russian society is a profoundly patriarchal one, and nobody seems to talk about it. All that reporting about the invasions of Ukraine and Russia against each other, how about the 14,000 women per year in Russia who are prematurely forced off this earth by their husbands, their lovers, and their brothers? How about we talk about those ladies a little bit, and why their families break up, and why the women have all these degrees and speak several languages and yet have nobody in their government? I think we should talk about them. Those women here, they're very much invited here. Also, a person who helped raise little Ya was Lillian Gay. Right near, in this neighborhood now, it's mostly people of color, or what we call people of color. It's people who are of African origin. The African tradition does, and all these traditions, all these women, all of these heritage, obviously Judeo-Christian, there was definitely goddess worship in their initial regions for 35,000 years at least, much longer than our modern religions even existed, and in our modern nation states. And so she was cared for by Lillian Gay. Lillian Gay has a mother, Shekinah, Kazinas, all of the women of color. We're inviting Coretta. We've invited Christine. We've invited Yolanda. We remember Bernice. We have invited Fania and Angela, who give us one of the best examples of the use of the circle process in Oakland. We have invited Ethel Long Scott. We have invited a lot of people of that heritage and more, and especially Bell Hooks, who shares her birthday with me. We have invited them. Now we're also going to include in this area, also serving in this area right now, is Anna Maria, who is of Hispanic origin, Basque actually, and her sister Julianne, and their great-grandmothers, and their goddess is Mari Ambotu, who is the great goddess of the Spanish Hibernian region of Europe, and gives us all rise to all of the Latinas, the Chicanas, all of those all over North America and South America and Latin America, all related to that goddess, whose name was Mari. And of course, they worship mostly, many of them, in the Christian tradition that was imposed on them, when the Spanish conquistadors came here, and at the point of their swords, gave the Native Americans who were worshiping their Mother Earth and their Father Sky, they forced the wonderful religion of Christianity at the point of a musket on these people. And so they took it, but many of them are continuing, especially in Brazil, and there's a lot of Brazilians watching these broadcasts. They worship Yamaja, they worship Mari, they worship Mariamboto, they worship the actual original goddess, as well as the Christianized, syncretized version that we received as Mary of Nazareth. And then now Mary of Magdala risen a little bit more. And so we've included all them, and we've included, and we have nearby Chinatown, we've included many people from that heritage. We've included Julie, whose film is a great one, and her friends, and we've included some who are very famous, who I will tell you about in the subsequent broadcast, Amy and Shirley and others. More, you're going to hear about them soon. The Chinese women give us, the Chinese culture give us the phrase, women hold up half the sky. They know about the stargates, but they don't observe it in their culture. Their culture is also patriarchal in their governmental processes, and therefore there's terrible suffering in China and great risk of a terrible environmental catastrophe there. So we have to address them, and they are here, and they have been delivered parity too. And we have delivered also the Zalkindian family, Rose and Marcia and Annette. Annette and Ezra Harriet can make reconciliation here. And also we have delivered Rebecca and Sandra and Denise and other Zalkindian women. And all of that branches, and that branch goes further back to Mari or Marie, who is the name of the goddess of flow, of loving kindness, of milk and honey in both Judeo-Christian traditions, and
And in Hinduism, Mariam is the goddess who prevents disease. And Mariama. And so this is a Marian month. This is important for us to recognize how many of the names of the goddesses around this planet had Mar in them, or Ma, or Mara, or some combination in them. And all we have the Polish goddesses, the Latvian goddesses, Mara, Zamara. There's a whole bunch of them, and they're here too, and all their kin are here invited too. And we have included now the Feldmarian family. Let me not forget the Feldmarian family, very, very important. Soma and Meredith, and Vedanta and Giselle of the Hungarian region, in connection with Saraswati worship there among the Roma, and going back to the original goddess worship that was, of course, from the Indus Valley, from Vedic India, which gives Soma her name. The name of Soma is the name of the elixir of the goddesses of gods. Soma means the body, the plant, the fruit of the goddess. And so that is her name. And Meredith, Mary also has the Mer sound, Mar, and Dith means to speak. And we have to speak for Meredith, because she's not speaking for herself. She's not speaking up for her family. She's putting Soma in a difficult position by doing that. And we have to speak up for both of them. And Soma is writing poetry about these things, and we need to help Meredith with her art to recognize the extent to which she did include the eternal feminine, and does not only have to erase that aspect of herself now in order, I guess, to fit in with her own current low self-esteem that is inculcated in North American women if they watch the media and hang out with the political puppets thinking that they are telling them the truth. They are not. So, but there's enormous movement in their region, Vancouver, for gender parity. And much of Canada has gender parity. So they're here, and all these. Let's see. So Feldmarian, we're also including Andrea and Jamie and Robin. We're also including, obviously, Stacy, Anastasia, with Cheryl, with Dorothy, with Merle, with Andrea, and with Jill, and with lots more there. Feldmarian, we also are including Barbara, with Rachel Marie, Danielle Juliet, with Judy, and with their mother. I'm not sure of their mother's name, and we have to get that name. But I'm going to say what would be a name? I guess we'll say Hannah too, just to emphasize the point of a holy mother giving birth to holy daughters and holy sisters and holy daughters again. And so Rachel Marie and Danielle Juliet. And now we also want to include the mothers with sons. So the first part of our ceremony is to anoint all of these women of all the branches. And we're also including Robin with Gaugy, with Sylvia, with Beth. We're also including Judy and Sarah. We're also including Esther and Ilsa, and their mother, whose name I guess was Gretchen, I'm pretty sure, or something like that. We're also including Gila and Ray and Ethel, who are also in your towers region there, and the Magla Towers, and don't even know the meaning of their buildings names because of the impact of patriarchy. And her daughter Tsila, and her their great and granddaughters, the little one whose name is Jilly. Okay, and I think, and we're including more. And if I'm getting any of these names wrong, and on the Silver Kenyan branch, we're also including the daughters there, Halal and Asira, Ashira, and we're also including some sons. And now we're going to get to the mothers with sons. Marian has sons as well as a daughter, and they need to. And we know that they're feminists. They're already writing that online. The sons there are saying, "I am a feminist. I want to see the equality of women." They seem to be more comfortable with saying it than their mothers and their sisters overtly. Why? Because the pressure is on women here in North America to disown each other and to lose their own self-esteem. That pressure is coming from a very insidious tokenizing political apparatus and a very controlled media. So, the boys are saying it. They want equality for women. And we also include, obviously, my
Harlan-Lewis-Leviz, my nephew, I regard him as an intergenerational brother to me, as son to my sister Julianne Marie, Harlan-Lewis-Leviz. We are including him. We are including Mary with her mother, whose name is also Hannah, and her son Ross. We are including Meredith with Marcel. But with their sisters, where there are sisters here, we're including the mother. In other words, with Marion, it is Hadass who is flanked by her brothers, but they are looking up to her to start the change. They are looking up to Hadass and to me, and in connection with them is Radha, okay, and with Marion. And also, so we are including all these young men. We are anointing them. So our first ceremony is anointing all of the middle-aged and older women. You're all goddesses. You have the crowns of cronehood. Crone does not have to be a bad name. It can mean to be crowned. It means chronos is the chronos of time is made benign within you, by you. You are giving people immortality by recognizing your own. And so time as a factor begins to fade away, and you get the understanding of space-time as an expanding circle, and that you have all of this universe to travel back and forth in time in the manner in which you think, so you can make circles of all events that occur and understand that they interact and reverberate through time. That's the way the universe works. Goddess God are not on a clock. Human beings are, because they put that on themselves. But Goddess God are not on a clock. And to be divine is to take yourself off the clock and live in an immortal space-time understanding that is ongoing in a continuum. And so we anoint all of the older women. You have all of you and all of your great and grandmothers and their Shekinahs and their Kozinas have had parity from the beginning of time, based on my divine intervention with the assistance of Mother, Father, Goddess, God. All of you, even the ones of you who are ignoring me and don't like me, you all have been given it. Now, if you walk away from a gift like that, Goddess God might cream you. You might say, these women are like dumber than dumb. They're dumber than a worm. Oh, and I neglected to mention, very important, first and foremost, Anne Marie and Ma Patricia and Anne Marie. You heard their voices if you listened to this broadcast and the initial musical medley and announcement of the New Millennial Golden Rule. Anna Marie and Ma Patricia bring with them Laura and Martha and April and Angela and Rose and Edith. And they also have sons that will also anoint. We'll mention them now. Two younger sons, age 37 and younger, Shannon, Ben, and John. And all of their, now we're talking about vast numbers of people who lived on this continent, all of their Shekinah, of all the tribes, the friend and our friend, Virginia Valentine Coles, the descendant of the Iroquois, whose husband was Rob Coles, the descendant of Thomas, Martha and Tom Jefferson's family, and their daughters, Mary Jefferson, and all of that family is coming through, and they're working through me and saying, we're really sorry we screwed up on common sense. We shouldn't have kept our slaves, and we shouldn't have kept the women out of the Constitution. And they're coming through me, okay? And all of these indigenous people and all these people of color and all of these Celtic people, we've got all of the Brannock, Skakel, Kennedy people here from Chicago. They are working through me with Moxie, and I am representing them all. And they are here. And we have got Marija as daughters, Sylvia and Rasa and Dana, who you've heard already. You've heard on some of the broadcasts, and they're coming back, and we're going to have them all here. And they have already been given parity. So now we did the mothers as goddesses. We want to do the mothers with the daughters. So it starts with Ashera and Ray and Clara and yeah, even though I have to act for her, re-anointing Julianne Marie and I into parity, and us re-anointing them. We have to do that together. If we don't do that together, there's going to be big trouble there where you are in the Heartlands. You're going to have an environmental consequence that you're not going to like, and your own children will be at risk. So I'm telling you this. This is absolutely
unavoidable. If you keep avoiding these broadcasts and don't talk to each other, you're creating enormous ills there. And you may lose your children, you may lose your own lives. What an achievement, just so you don't have to talk about parity. Now, why do women do that? Because women who were born in the 20th century miss their fathers. The fathers of the 20th century, in a sense, didn't have a Saint Valentine protecting them. They worked long hours at offices far away from their homes, and they hardly saw their kids, and they didn't have balance of love and work, and they still don't have it because our so-called alleged, but not really in fact, Congress has not done what all the European legislatures have done in so many places and given people 3 and 4 years paid family leave. And that's occurring in many places around the world. South Africa, even Iran and North Korea have a year of family leave. Only Americans have figured out how to completely screw up their own children. That's an achievement, wouldn't you say? And why is that achievement occurring? Because we had an inversion of feminism here in North America. The women were so injured by the domination culture that all they could think about was unwanted pregnancies and abortions, because so many of them were raped and incested. So they could only think about that, and they got all wrapped around about abortion. And they forgot representation and balance of love and work utterly from their agenda initially, because they were so wrapped up in the abortion matter. And then, then some of these clever patriarchs decided to use that. Let's divide the women according to the abortion issue. Let's keep them at odds with each other. And that way we'll keep them out of office, and we'll keep them under our thumb. And guess what? They'll be getting us coffee and making us peanut butter sandwiches forever, and we'll be screwing whoever we want to. And aren't we having a great time? And by the way, let's put our money in oil and coal and all these polluting things, because you know what? Life is not very fair, and because people like us are allowed to get away with pretty much murder. And so why have an idealism anymore? And I don't need to have an eternal life. I'm a shithead, so I'll just kill everybody else off, and who's going to stop me? And that's pretty much what we got in North America, because women do not stand up to the patriarchy of our corporations. And we also include Lynn and Nisa and Ione. And what's going on there? These are women who have some impact on corporations. Why don't they? They had all this information. Why haven't they stood up with it? They missed Daddy. They didn't like Mama. They didn't like Ione. And they don't like Iona Vargas, who I introduced them to, the social worker who does the Family Reunion Institute at Temple University. Don't like her either, and all of her African-American generations and all the multiple cultural generations. She and the men of Temple University, as well as the women, have been trying to give gender parity to. You don't like that, huh? You're not interested. You're watching television. You work for a big media corporation. Oh, they might fire you, so you can't say the truth. Is that right? Well, it's very sad. But you're here anyway. We'll give you parity anyway, because you're such doofuses that you just have to have some. And we'll want to honor your mothers. Your mothers did nothing for you. They fed you, they clothed you, they did your laundry. Maybe they didn't always get along well with you because there was no father around them. There was no extended family around them either to help them learn better ways of and so forth. And with regard to Julia and Maria too, and many of the women of this 30s, 40s, and 50s generations, the breastfeeding time was not right then, and a lot of people have scars from that time that we all have to heal, and you are best included to do it. And we also are including Julie and Dory, and we're also including Dale and Debbie and Helen and Arlene, and we're also including Tracy and Debbie and Eileen Irene and Hortense and Cookie and Lisa and Judy and Pauline and Annie and Annabelle, of course, Annabelle very much. And all of the men of these families have it incumbent upon them to get smart about parity and start spreading it as the way they, like Alan Johnson and Israel Ehrenberg, Ashley Montague, and Sir Thomas More, and Lionel Jospin, and Stephen Lewis, and Desmond Tutu and his Exandi's husband, and Julie Morgan's Rodri. All of these men have been bringing gender parity. It's only where you are, ladies, it was not happening. And you know why? Because you're watching television and you trusted a bunch of puppeted politician women who were pulled into it without their own getting their healing of their electric complexes, because North American society was so hard on fathering. It pulled the men out of the home and made them martinettes in their homes when they were there. And the girls either adjusted to that extremity of patriarchy that their mothers tried to make seem normal, or they didn't have a father at all, and so they're so desirous of a father. Either way, that creates a mindset that gives patriarchy a pass instead of changing to parity, and that mindset is very dangerous. So we ladies, you have to get some healing on these issues. Now, I think I've mentioned everybody. So we've done all the goddesses, and now we do the goddess mothers, all these women we've named, and all their daughters. Big ceremony. And then now we bring the daughters with their brothers and their young lovers, their young friends, their friend lovers, their young men, like Soma and with Barcel, and with Hadass, with Yeshai and Amos, and with Alyssa and Hillel with their, I think his name is Shalom, I'm not sure the name, and also and with Vanessa and Harlan Louis Laviz, and with Hadass with Ross, because they have such common areas of interest. And we'll pull you all together, and we now anoint you in sisterhood and brotherhood, all as young goddess gods. You all have, the women all are young goddesses, and the young men are all young gods of peace culture, peace and parity culture. And you are fully empowered to open up the stargates. And I'm also going to include, of course, Lynn and her, Lynn, the great, everything is all connected geobiologist, and her daughter, Jessica, and I neglected to mention Jennifer and Hesperus and Athena, and also with their Shekinah, Carrie and Rachel, the mother of Carl, the sister of Carl, who I partially reincarnated too. Okay, we're including the planetary Gaia family and the Stargate family. They're here. I'm including them. They're represented by me. I've done it. Goddess God hears me. The universe hears me. Carl, I hear you, but I hear your sister, and she's here. And your mother, I'm hearing her. And your character in your film shouldn't have just seen her father. She should have seen her mother, too. And then the Stargate would have opened. If you had made that in the movie, you'd have opened the Stargates. So we're making it in our movie right now. And so now I'll do the ceremony very, very quickly, because now I want to say something didactically about a little university lecture here. Think of all the decisions that have been made mostly by men. First of all, there was a decision that's made the point of the play, The Mad Woman of Shiloh, in the great play by Jean Giraudoux, that they're going to dig for fuel. They're going to frack, drill, and dig for fuel. In that play, they made it in Paris. They're going to dig under Paris for fuel. And so they're going to have a war over it, too. And they got all the generals ready because they're ready to fight over the fuel, right? So that's what we've been doing for a couple thousand of years. They've been fighting over the wrong fuel. And so what would decision-making be like by women? Go solar. No war. War is over. Solar power is here. Nothing to fight about. No fuel lines, no trade routes to be endangered by this army or that army, because it's coming from everywhere. It's coming from the sky. You got it all the time, and once you've installed it, it doesn't need much upkeep, and it's done. You've got it forever. No bills, no problems, no stress. You know, women are 95% for solar. Men are about 89% for solar right now. But what are the old men of their governments that they keep voting for, delivering to them? Plutonium, carbon, and methane. It's dead. And pretty soon sulfur. So the decision-making of women, we hereby decide that. We decided to go solar on a solar Marshall Plan. Boom, done. And so the decision-making, we know in the villages of India and the Panchat Raj, that's the first element of the New Millennium Golden Rule, the village rule of gender parity and intersectional justice. They've already established all kinds of solar power there. They are doing preservation of seeds so that the seeds are not maladaptive and create pests and pest weeds and all kinds of things because they're dependent on chemical fertilizers that really have no need. And so so they're doing those things, and we're not doing them here in North America. So now, by gathering here, we're going to do that in North America too. Okay, and so these are some of the things that you would avoid. We would have avoided World War II. We would have avoided Stalinist purges. So that's about about 250 million people who are waiting in the universal's ether, the Akashic record, for you to remember that they were killed by patriarchy. Do you care? All those people in the gas chambers, patriarchy. They're Vaterland. And the women just loved Adolf. And the Russian women liked Joe. Because the media was controlled and their little addled brains were addled to like that which degraded them. And to worship which was other than them instead of each other and themselves. So that's what you're doing. Only you got a female token face here and there to confuse you and make it a little bit more difficult for you to discern what's happening. So we have that. Now we have the genuine progress indicator. Each woman in the world would have earned a couple of $100,000 a year under normal accounting practices according to what they actually do in labors devoted to their family and to their community and to activism and volunteering. Each woman, every woman on earth who ever lived would have been given the equivalent of probably a lot more than her husband was paid in salary. But the reason her husband was paid less in salary and she was not credited at all was because the patriarchs counted what they did as more important. So they gave themselves big roomfuls of treasures that they stole from this place and stole from that place. They gave themselves piled high with shekels and now piled high bank accounts and portfolios, piled high. Well, you little ladies get to be 70% of you are living in poverty. And you don't want to talk about that. You don't talk about that with your sisters and your sister casinas. So it's happening again. And now you're putting your kids in poverty. They have to pay $40,000 a year to go to college. That didn't used to be. Community colleges were nearly free. And you know what? Now with Ann Margulies' website at MIT, Open Courseware, it is free. You can take a placement test from Excelsior University online, place out on anything that you want, and say, I know this subject. So why are you sending your kids into debt? Explain it to me. I know why. Because you're not talking to each other in this family and a lot of other families that are related to us. And that's why your kids are bearing a burden of debt that their grandpas gave to them that has no reality at all and is based in a misconcept of the gross domestic product instead of the genuine progress indicator. You live by the genuine progress indicator, you will use your consciousness currencies or you will die. Okay? It's that simple. And you will spread them around and you will enjoy them and you will be proud of them or you will begin to die. Okay? And the third thing is the circle process. Where are you? Where are the people on this broadcast with me? You know I'm doing this. Everybody knows I'm doing this. Are you so afraid to do one right thing in your life? What do you want to just extend your life as a living zombie? Why don't you take a risk? You do everyone good and you do Goddess God good. And doesn't Goddess God count to you at all? Did you think you made yourself? Do it for Goddess God's sake. If you can't care about your own children and each other, do it for Goddess God. So now we're going to do the ceremony very quickly, and then we'll make some individual calls, and we're going to put less stress on the individual, less emphasis, not less stress, but less emphasis on the individual calls. These joint gatherings that I am representing you as having been here at, and maybe some of you are here. I don't know who of you are watching the videos, because I cannot track that. They don't track that on, as far as I can tell, on the software that Google offers. But I think some of you have been watching, and I think you know what I'm saying is true. And if you don't begin to speak the truth in your own life, you will die in a lie. Don't do that to yourselves and your children. Don't do that to yourselves and your children. And so we'll say, the light is on in all our hearts. We have with us marvelous, miraculous, budding, blooming flowers and water. Hugs and love to all, both in each and every one, as soon as possible. And let me just say, I need to mention the names of the older men of our family too, who are also working through me. The men of my family were keenly men of democracy. They were not older brothers. They were not authoritarians, although they had a little of that tendency at some level, because they were living under patriarchy. And all men of that time thought that they could periodically pull rank on their wives. They all did it. It wasn't right, and some of them felt guilty about it. And they were wise to feel guilty about it, because it was the wrong system. So they are working through me too, and they want to come through the Stargates too. They do want to come through, and so does Carl, along with Julian. So does Carl, along with Julian, and Lewis, and Alan, and Emil, and Oscar, and Paul, and the younger brothers, as well as Joseph and Milton. And the names of the current men who are cousins in our family, I'm not naming them, but I have you in my heart. I think you've been made into sociopaths by the extreme low self-esteem of the women that you associate with. You've been made to accept a political environment that is not parity, because the women are winking at it, because their self-esteem is already so low that you don't notice how sick they are. You don't notice that electrocomplex is an illness. You think it's normal. You think it's common. It may be common, but it isn't normal. It's induced by patriarchy. So we'll mention the names of the men and honor all the men. We want to give you eternal life too. We want to give everyone eternal life. I'm not against any human being. God creates all human beings as divine. However, you can become demonic if you continue patriarchy, and your land will erode underneath you, and your environment will become that of a sulfuric hell. Methane, carbon, sulfuric, plutonium-like hell. You don't want it. So the light is on in all our hearts. We have this marvelous, miraculous, budding, blooming flowers and waters. And you can hear Doña Aurora Feliz and Maria Rainbow Sweetheart. Maria Rainbow Sweetheart and Doña Aurora Feliz say hi and hugs to Heather and Jan and Heather, and all. And also on behalf of Whiskers and Tiger and Buttermilk and Blackie and Buttermilk, and Felix and all the flora and the fauna, butterflies, birds, and bees, and the furry pets, the butterflies, and birds, and bees, and all the people too are invited to this ceremony through me. And so we're continuing the ceremony. The light is on in all our hearts. We have with us marvelous, miraculous, budding, blooming flowers and water. Hugs and love to all, both in each and every one, as soon as possible. And the marvelous, miraculous, budding, blooming flowers are both of the Ceres and the Persephone, both of the Ceres and the Triptolemus and the Marsyas. They are both the male and the female and the male versions of the ever young goddess at whatever age, and the young and youthful goddess, as well as the young and youthful god within our younger generations, that we have a special obligation to give a new world to, and to enjoy with them. And we'll say this again. The light is on in all our hearts, and we have with us marvelous, miraculous, budding, blooming, and flowers and water, hugs and love to all, both in each and every one, as soon as possible. If I have forgotten any names, please include them. You know your family, you know your community, you know the people who are around you. You know the people who are on your family tree, and if you don't, find out their names, and especially to find out the names of the maternal and the grandmothers and Shekinah relations. Some of the people that we're inviting to these hangouts are people like Cindy Howell Ingalls and and another woman whose name I'm forgetting, who have done a lot of work on the genealogy of female ancestry. And there's a great deal about that on the internet, and you should use it. I should use it even more. And when we're on the Q continuum, once we've decided on parity and announced it, just announced it without reservation, announced it, it is the law of the Mother, Father, Goddess, God, and anything else you're doing is not law. It's not law. And I will not long abide by anything that is not law. I may be a little strategic in the way I'm navigating this situation of our world where people think patriarchy is law. And therefore they're so deceived that people who are clear are seen as aberrant and breaking the law when in fact they're trying to enforce the real law. It's just like what Susan B. Anthony said. Disobedience to tyranny is obedience to Goddess God. You have to sometimes say, I'm not going to go along with this. And I am going to be saying that. Let me say, I'm be saying that very, very loudly, very, very soon. In a very important situation. And we also say the names, the names of all the heritages of greetings. We say namaste. We say mitakuya oyasin, mitakuya kosei Reall. We say bahava l'chaim, shalom salam, salam shalom. We say merci. We say ubuntu. We say buenos dias. We say das vidanya. We say chus. We say sedlerik, to your best. Sedlerik. We say mir pace. We say every language, and there's so many more. And we also say love and live eternally young, longest, and prosper each and every one and all. Okay? Now, the milk of human kindness we drink, especially on behalf of a very simple person in making this shift, which is, well, let's say several women in our family. Marion, Julianne Marie, and Barbara, and maybe Ivana, Ivana, and Ivy. These women have both personal and educational sensitization to the issue of breastfeeding. We need to empower them to deliver their experience as a great strength and gift to advocate, as La Leche League does and many organizations now, for the full 2 to 3 years that is natural breastfeeding period for a human being. And mothers supported in that, and not having to pay for then being mommy tracked so that they can contribute to the larger society in divine democracy later on, and throughout their lives. We live in a time of enormous technological connection. People can certainly breastfeed their babies and yet push a button and let their vote be known on an issue for their local neighborhood. It isn't hard. There's no reason to disqualify women because they're mothers. And in fact, the greatest qualification for making good decisions for the future is to love a child or to love younger people. So we drink to the milk of human kindness for breastfeeding on cue for 2 and 3 years for all of us, past, present, and future, and through for human kindness, the milk of human kindness throughout life, at all ages, in all places, everywhere on earth and throughout the universe of our Milky Way and beyond. We drink the milk of human kindness for all, both, and each and every one as soon as possible, on behalf of all, both, and each and every one as possible, and representing all, both, and each and every one as soon as possible. Many of our most aggressive men are aggressive because they are too aggressive because they were not properly breastfed. Understand that, it's a dynamic. And we'll drink the water of enlightened, loving, living planets that will sustain and reclaim our planet Earth to be for all, both, and each and every one as soon as possible. For all, both, and each and every one, and representing all, both, and each and every one as soon as possible. All use of Mari names. Mari is associated with the flow of milk, of water, of honey, of information, of kindness. Mari, the name means flow. It's in the word that we use for oceans, marine. It means to flow. And it also is in the word Mars. And we can reclaim that planet. Many people believe there once was sophisticated life on Mars. Do we want to follow the same mess that they did to themselves? Or do we want to learn? as Marians this time. Instead of dead Martians, let's be living Gaian Australian Marians. Okay? Throughout the cosmos. For all, both, and each and every one as soon as possible. We'll celebrate and re-celebrate all our birthdays, conception days, name days, and holy days, starting with our equinox, birth and conception days, around, more or less around them, on all different sides of the equinox, in the spring and near spring months, and then all years round, so that we focus on the spring within women and within our youth, females and males, age 37 and younger, as our first focus. And then we'll also include older people, older men. Yes, we'll include them too. And we'll go back and forth in time. And we'll celebrate and re-celebrate all our birthdays, conception days, name days, and holy days together. Of all of our heritages made reunited by the light of understanding and the risen divine feminine of divine democracy. So we'll celebrate them. Let me just say, I'd like to say it a little bit very explicitly. Very explicitly. We'll celebrate and re-celebrate all our birthdays, conception days, name days, and holy days as equinox true Qs, co-secretary generals, co-Sephiras, Couszmic Christs of this and all our planets. We'll celebrate and re-celebrate all our birthdays, conception days, name days, and holy days, past, present, and future, as better than Stargate, better than Star Trek, put together, equinox true Qs, Couszmic Christs, co-secretary generals, co-Sephiras. You can also call yourselves mayorals, with it spelled M-A-Y-O-U-R-A-L-L. You're mayors, and you're also senators, and your congresses, and you have whatever name you want, but we want to say co-secretary general, co-Sephira, to indicate that we are thinking of our planet and that our allegiance is to our planet and to our universe, not to some man-made place on a map that is connected to everyone else by weather patterns and everything, and you want to pretend they're separated. They're not. Then Margulies was right. It's all interconnected. Get with the program. If you have a bad policy on solar energy here, you're affecting China. And China could have a volcano, and that'll come back to haunt you. Get it? A volcanic eruption. So you got to be responsible for your planet now. You're not babies anymore. You have the internet. Wake up. And most of you can get the internet who don't have it. So, and we have our consciousness currencies. In our multiple generational Shekinah goddess-led family tree of Shekinahs and young Shekinahs and Mikivas. Our circle, this is only representative. A few people are very important who are represented here, and you need to come as co-hostesses and co-hosts or expect big trouble. You're going to wind up calling me and saying, why didn't we listen to you? I hope that whatever shocks you have are epiphanies and not anything that would destroy you utterly. And my special branches need to repair the sisterhood here urgently. Everybody in the world who doesn't know that is asking for trouble, who knows us. The people who know about this breach and do nothing to intervene are really in trouble. And we also include their great and grandmothers, and we know that we can. I think we can heal this breach, and we have divine intervention can also heal it. But it would be better if human beings showed care and concern about sister relationships of everyone they know, and all the female Shekinah relationships of any family. And so we include the 5 fingers here. So we're including both branches of this family, both those of the young woman and the young man, and all of this. And we've mentioned their names already. And we'll, again, the sisters and the young couple. And again, the balancing of their families. And with also, there are families, and so, because we're all related already. And also their context within this larger group, which is so important to one another. Okay, and then we always say, we're going to remember that we are the rainbow, that we are the fruits and the jewels of nature. We are the highest creation of nature, and yet we're destroying nature because we're not living in harmony, because we're not living with parity. And we need to have planetary paradisal parity, and that way we will be able to avoid plutonic, patriarchal planetocide. Choose today, by delivering the new millennial golden rule to everyone you know, parity, not patriarchy, and choose paradise instead of planetocide, instead of plutonic, horrible, horrible experiences of plutocracies against the majority of people, and then the end of the world and worlds, because you will be destroying your chance in your karmic life. And therefore, your experience on future worlds will be profoundly degraded if you have one at all. Because the universe does not stop with your planet. And your soul is not just of your planet. It is of universal creation. And you have to attend to the equal love and kindness to both genders, or you will go down by your failure to do it. So let's have you do it. And then you will become risen and very, very happy instead. I'm sorry, I muted it for a moment there. Let me just repeat that. Turn off television. You have the power to begin the world anew. The people who did not observe common sense that was delivered in January and February of 1776 and that we are now extending into Women's Herstories Month forgot Mariam Lambert. They forgot that Tom Lambert Payne had a wife, and he forgot it because he was pressured by the men around him whose wives were ignored by them. Even Abigail Adams said to John, remember the ladies, give us the votes at the beginning. He ignored her. That's what happens among men who ignore women. They ignore reality, and then they wind up with what they had, a big war, and then they had oppression of the genocide of Native Americans, and then they had slavery, then they had a big civil war, a couple of 100,000 of them got killed then, the grandsons of the same men who did this. Why? Because the women couldn't figure out that they each other had value and talked to one another. You are making the same mistake, and you are going to have a much worse result because you do have some access to women's studies, you have lots of information over the internet, and you're not trying. That's a mental case situation. That's a psychological self-esteem problem. That's an electrocomplex issue. That's a psychological problem, and you're going to have to deal with yourselves in that way. So let's apply the common sense and extend it into our Marian months and make them all Marian months. And loves the name of Mari, meaning the loving kindness of flow and milk and honey and paradise. And then you reunite Mari with her ancient Astrea and all, so that we unite Mariam of Magdala and Mariam Nazareth and all of their kin, including Jesus, with the original society of Atlantis that gave them their brilliant understandings. And then you will have eternal life. And so we'll say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, all the blessings and all the greetings of all the planets of our Earth and our Earths, past, present, and future together as co-secretary generals, co-saviorahs, Couszmic Christs, Kazina cousins who instead of the sin of patriarchy practice the saving grace of parity and call for it and speak of it and are not afraid to speak of it to all that they know and those who are interacting with them. And I am going to be speaking. So if anything harm comes to me, it will come to all of you. Because Goddess God is going to protect this message, or else the planet will be destroyed. And so I'll say it again. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, all the blessings and all the greetings of all the planets, including this Earth and all our Earths, past, present, and future, as co-secretary generals, co-saviorahs, equinox, true Qs. And now we'll put the screen share on, and I think I'll play the tape for you one more time, just the understanding that we have to remember, we have to travel in time. We have to think about people who came before us, who are with us, and people who are our future, and how we can become our own future instead of dying in our own waste and want and worry and our genderism.
And then she said she couldn't keep the name for everybody. Did you force her to that? That's when she came down and started to spell again with the Golden Center. Her whole love was to have her children there. She didn't, it wasn't so heavy just to get along with nothing. She was careful, very careful. And there was a sister, Clara.
Okay, and we're just going to play a little bit of the end of the music, not the end, the rousing music, so that you are reminded that we did play the musical melody at the beginning, and you can listen to it on the video.
Lady May Sunflower, the Obscurity and Blackness. This is Anna Marie, singing Christian, and I am Cherokee, Cheyenne, Blackfoot, and Algonquin, Dakota. And I am also a French, English, and German. Intercuye I Latin. That means we are all related. We embrace the new millennial golden rule as the law of all the natives, of the sacred ground that is Mother Earth, and all the planets of all the universes.
Okay, and we'll leave this screen share on for a little while if you're watching online, and we're going to send our stereo version for those who don't have access to the computer or want to hear it in this way for any reason on our phone tree. And again, I say to you, we have offered you the choice between blessings and curses, life and death, in too many instances, even among those of you who we love so very greatly. Choose love and life in the light of balance, and forsake ye not your, our new millennial law, the new millennial golden rule. Come co-host this and co-host with us and share this on every circle you can gather, starting with the Shekinahs and the young people, females and males, age 37 and younger, are Shekinahs and Hekinahs. We love you all. Goddess God loves you all. But Goddess God cannot love you if you do not love yourselves. If you do not love yourselves and you do not love your divine feminine, you're not loving the masculine either. That's the way the yin yang works. So wake up, and we will send this message to you, and we'll continue to do whatever we can on your behalf as intercessory. But your lack of coming and your lack of discussion about this with me, and your continued, so many of you, embeddedness in patriarchy, internalized patriarchy for women, and practice of patriarchy with hubris among men is going to be your undoing. So wake up and instead enjoy blessings and become the Co-Secretary General's Co-Sefiraz Equinox True Cues that you really are created to be.
To save this message, press 1. To hear it again, press 2. To re-record this message, press 3. Your greeting has been saved. To change extension type, press 1. To record extension name, press 2. To manage greeting, press 3. To hear